All right, here's a little tutorial for the fire rated wall sections that we're doing here for the NCAB project. So first thing you want to do, if you follow along with my email, which I'm actually going to do right now, is first thing you want to open up the right view, your floor plan. So we're going to start with this one. I have this in a sheet already, so if you actually go down to the sheets section of your project browser, you can go to the fire rated conditions. Here it is. FR 100-LL. This is going to be your typical floor plan, and then where we have our sections stored, we'll call it -A, -B, -C, however many pages we need for those sections. It'll look something like this, like what Manoj had sent over. So first thing, we want to open up this floor plan. Of course, we need to activate it by double clicking, or contrary, you can open up the actual floor plan by clicking on this drop down here and opening the lower level, the one that we're starting with. Doesn't matter either way, does the same thing. So, and now we can go to our view tab and elevation. So now we can start placing some elevations. As you can see, I've already placed a couple. They look a little different, and I'll show you why. So go ahead and click on elevation. Over here in the properties, you're going to want to change the type to be interior elevation 1/4 inch. I just created this so that it looks a little cleaner. It's this nice, has a nice little blue arrow pointing to each direction that we have a view. And yeah, and it's a little smaller. It's not going to take up as much space as these bigger elevations. So now that you have that right elevation selected, I'm going to go ahead and go to a new room. I'm just going to put it down here for now. There we go. Now we have 4 different corners on this one elevation, and we can activate the other 3 that currently don't have. Oops, got to hit escape. Forgot to do that. Okay. So now if we select this kind of central part of this item, we can click our show arrow, and show arrow. All that does is it creates a view pointing in the right direction, the south direction, the west direction, and the north direction. So now we have our 4 views there. And let's see, looking at my email here. All right, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to edit all these view names. I'm a little bit out of order over here. I think the best way that we want to approach this is kind of by starting in the top left corner and then working our way away from that corner. Whatever makes the most sense to you, it honestly shouldn't matter too much. So, for instance, this view I have right here, I named each of these sections as 001, and then this one will probably be something like 002. This one might be 003, 004, 005, and so on, and just slowly make these sections as we continue working through the building here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that section I just created, or this elevation that I just created. If you tab select, it should give you, there you go. So hit tab a couple times, select it when it's on this middle icon. I'm just going to delete that. Now it says these 4 views that we just created will also be deleted. That's okay. We'll recreate those later. I'm just going to delete those for now. All right, so like I said, this is 001. I'm just going to go ahead and make this 002, but first I want to change the type of elevation this is. So again, you can do that up in this top corner in properties. Click on interior elevation 1/4 inch. There we go. So now we want to rename all of these in the same format as this. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the sections tab, which is actually, elevations tab. It's going to be this one here. Again, it matches the type of elevation we're using. So now you can see we have all 4 of these brand new elevations in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy and paste. So let's see, I'm going to select north first. We can see that A is north. I'm just going to hit Control V and then just change it to 002. And then we're going to do that for the rest of these. I'm just going to copy that name. We know B is east. Change that to an E. C is south, so change that to an S. D is west, so change that to a W. Okay, so now we're renamed. Perfect. And then the next thing we're going to want to do is change the parameters of these elevations. And what we want to do is adjust the start line to be right in front of that wall, and then we'll adjust the view depth to be a little less than halfway going into that wall. We could probably just do it right on the face, actually, something just like that. Because again, we only want to see a penetration that's going through this part of the wall. That's all we care about. So go ahead and do that for all of your elevations. So this is what it'll look like from the beginning. Click on the arrow, you'll zoom out, and it'll be this massive line. So all you got to do is grab these little dots and drag those in. And then we can decrease our view depth. And then we can go ahead and bring that nice and tight against that wall. We want to overlap a little bit onto into our adjacent walls, just so we can see that there's walls there. That's why we're ending the view at this particular point, is because there's a new wall starting. And then we'll go ahead and drop that down a little bit. So again, you want to do that for all your elevations. I'm not going to, I'll spare you the time of watching this video. You don't have to do it for every single one, but this is what it's going to look like. They're going to be really big because they try to capture the entire building, everything it can see. That's what elevations are programmed to do. So then you just drag those in. Again, a little bit of overlap onto the adjacent walls, like so. And then you want it to be just past the face of that wall. You want your view depth to be just past the face of the wall. So that for all the views. Okay, so now we know how to place our elevations, we know how to use the right type of elevation, we know how to rename them, and we know how to fix the depth. And the last part we have here is placing them on a sheet. So as I said, I already created a sheet, so if you go down to the Sheets portion of your project browser, as I said earlier, we have the secondary sheet with a -A or -B or -C, depending on how many sheets we actually need for this. So I'm going to go ahead and double click into that. And this is what it's going to start looking like. So I put all of the 001 sections into here already. Now I can go ahead and do that for 002. The east and the north, those are the ones I just adjusted the view depth for. But before I put them on the sheet, I want to just go ahead and make sure that everything looks correct in that view. So what I'm going to do is double click onto those elevations. You can either do that by clicking over here, or you can just do it by double clicking on the names directly on the floor plan. It's going to look something like this, and it looks like this because it doesn't have a view template applied to it yet. So all we got to do is we can actually mass select these and just add a view template right here. It should be called FR100 elevations. And that should automatically make your view close to perfect. This is everything we want to see here. So now what we want to do is we want to change the floor plan. I'm sorry, not the floor plan, the level to be on the other side. We want them both to be on the right side in every single view, just because keep it consistent, makes it look nice. All right, so it'll look something like this. There's just check boxes that allow you to turn on the little name for these levels. Okay, and then you can grab this little dot right here and just kind of drag it to the right. You just want to make sure we're not covering this wall with any of that text. All right, so this is what your views should look like. And if there's any random objects on here, if there's like, this is obviously a door, but if there's other random white objects or something like that, let's just go ahead and you can tab select them, by clicking tab a couple times and hitting select. And you can EH on your keyboard, element hide, if you want to get rid of them. And my view template probably isn't perfect yet, just because I created it a couple minutes ago. So you could always go back and let's just say, for example, let's just say we don't want to see casework, which we actually don't. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off. I don't care about ceilings either. So So we can adjust it in the view template, and it'll actually fix it on every single one of these views. So you can do it that way, or you can, like I said, you can tab select EH to hide certain elements, like so. Okay. And now the last adjustment we want to make here is we want to change the grids and the levels. We want to bring that grid in, just have it sticking off just by a little bit so you can still kind of see the extension of that line. And then we want to do the same thing for the grid. In this case, we actually want to bring that, you know, kind of in this area here. So again, you can see the extension of the line, but it doesn't look like actual parts of the model. And then we'll do the same thing for the top. We'll just bring that down by a reasonable amount. You know, maybe kind of keep a consistent, try to keep a consistent distance that you keep that grid away from the outside of your view. So something like this. So now we're going to do the exact same thing for the east view. So just double click on that. All right, so what we'll do is we'll flip the lower level to the other side by clicking these checkboxes. Then we'll drag that away from, again, getting that text out of that fire rated wall. And then the last step is we want to adjust the grids to, again, just barely be sticking off the edge of your view. Because the reason for this is we have a lot of views to fit on one sheet, or I mean, we want to keep it to as few sheets as possible. So we just want to minimize the size of our views. That's kind of what we're doing here. So now we have both of these views ready to go, and we can go back to our section sheet. Again, look something like this. And I need to go back and I'll manually adjust those grids. I didn't do that earlier. But now all we need to do is drag and drop. So again, I'm going to start with the north, and then the east, and the south and west. And try to make it equidistant. Again, just keep it consistent, make it look nice. So it'll look something like that. And then we can drag and drop our east, and then so on and so forth. You would do it for the south and then the west. Okay, so that's kind of what our final product is going to look like. And once you run out of room, all we got to do, very simply, we can go ahead and duplicate this sheet. So all you got to do is right click, duplicate sheet, and we can just say duplicate empty sheet since we don't need any views on it. Perfect. It already named itself LL-B. It just kind of renames itself in alphabetical order. And all we got to do is come in here and rename this to be part B. Okay. So again, once you run out of room on that first sheet, then we're going to want to go to that second sheet and start doing the exact same thing. And the nice thing about Revit is if I go back to my floor plan, it'll actually show you what sheet that you are putting these views on. So as you can see right in the middle, it says FR100 LLA, part A. I also have a view over here that I haven't put on a sheet yet. That's this guy hanging out over here. Again, it does not have a blue square by him, which means it is not on a sheet. And this text will fill in if it is on a sheet, and likewise it will give you a blue square over here if it's on a sheet. So that's kind of the trick to that there. So that should be it. I'm going to just double check my email one more time. Yep, just keep everything in numerical order as much as possible. Whatever method you find to be the easiest for moving these, for moving from one corner to the other or from one side to the other, doesn't really matter to me. Just whatever makes sense. And that should do it. I'm going to go ahead and delete these guys, and then we'll just start that from scratch. All right, so that's it. Good luck, and make sure to reach out with any questions.